Hello to everybody watching online and welcome in the room. For those of you I have not had the opportunity to meet, my name is Karen Mangia and I work for Salesforce. And I have the opportunity to do two things at Salesforce. So one is spend time with some of our largest and most strategic customers and their executives, understanding more about what they care about. And so for some of you, these are your customers that you're serving on a daily basis. And also how they're listening to their own customers. So kind of what does customer success look like? So that we can bring that back and understand trends. And sometimes we have blind spots of topics that our customers and our developers and people in our ecosystem care about that we don't even think to ask about and we're not even considering. So it helps us be really tuned to what you care about. The second piece is working on helping us elevate and build a new way to go to market and bring together some of our customers and the people that they would like to partner with and putting some investment into that ecosystem to make it possible. And that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today. And so when I talk about this whole concept of an equality ecosystem, imagine what it would be like if you could go back in time and help start like the Trailblazer community from scratch, or the MVP program, or the Trailhead DX events, or Dreamforce, or Trailblazers, any number of things that we bring out. And that's sort of where we are in this story. And so today in this session, not only are you going to get to hear a little bit of our thought process, you're also going to get to hear from a business owner in our ecosystem and then give us feedback to help us build a program that we hope to be launching formally at Dreamforce. So think of what I'm sharing with you as a series of ideas that are in development, or maybe in the world that we all live in, we think about this as the beta that's not GA yet, but we hope it will be coming soon. So this is your opportunity to share some feedback, and I thank you because, first of all, the people who work on this event at London's Calling are fantastic. And I'm so appreciative, as are my colleagues at Salesforce, for all of the work and volunteer time that you put into making these programs great. The second piece is I literally couldn't do my job without your feedback and your engagement, certainly when we're creating new programs like these. So thank you for everything that you do. I shared a little bit about what we're going to do to kind of follow the trail. And what has struck me as we've been working on ways to bring together the community and the businesses in the ecosystem with our customers is that Salesforce is telling a series of stories and focused on a series of themes right now that bring forward a path of opportunity for some other businesses to be elevated and invested in our ecosystem. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about kind of discovering this new path forward, and then it will be your opportunity to design the landscape, of where we might take our trail next. How many of you have seen this slide of the fourth industrial revolution? How many of you are tired of this slide or don't understand what it means? Okay, the video did not zoom in on anyone raising their hands. I promise I did not capture your names. I will not scan your badge. There was no sticker for that. There's no pie pin for that. I'm so sorry. The reason that I put this up here is when we talk about the idea of the fourth industrial revolution, one of the themes that we talk about and our customers care a lot about, and so do we sitting in this room, is no talent left behind, right? Meaning as the pace of technology continues to increase, how do we make sure we're still enabling opportunity for the workforce and for the communities in which we all live and work? So when you take that and you add it together with how many of you have seen this slide before? This one's a little bit newer into the rotation, so you might not be as fatigued from seeing this one quite yet. But the reason that this is important is when we talk about what's happening with the Salesforce economy, we talk about both new jobs, we talk about Trailblazers, and we talk about who are the people and the businesses that are hiring all of this talent of the future. Who is it that's creating these jobs? And when we stand up at something like Dreamforce, and we feature an organization like Pep Up Tech, for example, that's focused on developing a diverse talent of pipeline, ideally when those students finish the program, someone needs to hire them to do a technical job, right? And so we're seeing this landscape of how the Salesforce economy is growing as a means to make our workforce more diverse, but also travel with us into the future. And then lots of you will see yourselves here, right? As innovators, technology disruptors, and certainly our community shapers. But when we think about the story of Trailblazers, right, we're thinking about people who find the path, right? People who go first. They take a risk. They try something new. And where we're going with that thought process next is, beyond finding something new and discovering it and sharing it with someone else, there's also a really meaningful role in that Salesforce economy for business owners who are willing to invest in building a sustainable path so that others can take that same journey of innovation without the same level of risk, right? If you're the one who goes first, sometimes you get to be the guide to bring others with you. And then another piece of the story, 111. I'm hoping all of you are familiar with that and liking that story. But when we think about, what's happening with 111, it's a couple of things. First of all, a reflection of our Salesforce values. But also think about it as a program and a campaign, right, that we've put together, encapsulated, and made it possible to share with other people who want to join a similar journey. And the reason that I put those 4 pieces of the story together along with our values is because the opportunity that we have and what we're talking about today is really squarely then back to this theme of equality. And you hear Salesforce talking a lot about what we do to enable equality in the workplace, right? We talk a lot about who we hire at Salesforce. We talk about how we pay people at Salesforce and talk about pay equity. You'll hear Mark, right, make the offer that if your CEO isn't reviewing the compensation, please tweet him, right, and he'll contact your CEO and help get on this journey to equity in the workplace. And so when we bring those pieces together of no talent left behind, we think about the Salesforce economy and the talent pipeline and the opportunity ahead, as well as this value and program of giving back. We think about how do we extend what we're doing in the workplace out into the marketplace. So into the ecosystem of SIs and ISVs and all of the companies that you represent that kind of sit between and hold vital relationships between our customers and Salesforce. And so when we think about this topic, an area where we're doing some investment now is in this whole concept of marketplace equality. And the roots of this topic are in something called supplier diversity. Are any of you familiar with that term? Sometimes it's also referred to as ethical sourcing. And so think about it in these terms. It's about taking your budget as a company and spending it in line with a value like equality. So the basis of supplier diversity goes back to the 1960s when the thought was we should put some ways in place to make it easier, for example, if you're a diverse business and you want to sell something to a government or a not-for-profit organization, we should be able to identify you, certify that you're a diverse-owned business, either women, a minority, an ethnic group, LGBTQ, whatever it might be, and then include businesses like that in the bid process. So when we think about this concept of evolving what started out as a way that people can spend money and matching it up with all of that Salesforce goodness of equality, we think about it really in these terms. We're not talking today about who we hire and how we pay, although those things are critically important. This is about how we commit to spend money with diverse-owned businesses, right? So think about the power of a Salesforce budget or the budget at your company, and what would happen if you committed to allocate a percentage of that to spend with diverse-owned businesses. What would happen if Salesforce could build a Trailblazer community, for example, concept of people who are small business owners and diverse business owners so that we could elevate. And then the last piece is really connect. Because whether it's you're a developer or an admin or a business owner, there's something beneficial about community, right? About coming together, about going to Dreamforce and seeing stories about people like yourself, about being able to go into a partner lodge, for example, at Dreamforce and find other businesses like you to connect, to have community, and to share ideas. So one additional click down on this, just so you can get a sense. These are actually regulated definitions. So here in the UK and in the European Union, there can be slightly different definitions than there are in Australia or in the United States. But when we're thinking about this equality ecosystem, we're thinking about largely this segment of businesses on the right-hand side of the screen. So more than 51% owned and operated by someone with this kind of categorization. And so why do we want to spend time on this? I mean, what does this do? Besides, some people will say this is a great feeling. If you're already bought into and believe in equality, then what happens next? Well, here's a few things that we've discovered, and one is really anchored very much here in this event. Our Trailblazer community is becoming increasingly more diverse, right? And many of you are business owners and are trying to, elevate and connect with other business owners like yourselves. Significant diversity here. We're also seeing a rise in the purchasing power, of diverse people and diverse executives and businesses. And then we're also, continuing to experience and lots of data supporting what the return on investment looks like for investing in diverse-owned businesses and how that can outpace some other aspects of growth and really tie back to, again, building that overall Salesforce economy. And beyond that, we think about some themes here about innovation and providing some alternate procurement channels. So when customers want to partner with businesses in this space, how do we put the power of Salesforce behind making that possible? And how do we also tie that back into being able to get that Salesforce story down to the specific cities in which you all live and work? Right? So it's one thing to see a very big number of this economic investment and the Salesforce economy. It's something else to be able to say, whether you're in London or Manchester or Amsterdam, how that played out in your specific community and in your specific ecosystem. So a few other things. This has been sort of interesting learning along the way is there's actually some demand that's coming from all of you and from our customers for us to invest in extending this concept from equality in the marketplace to equality in the workplace. And here's a few examples. So we actually have 31 very large enterprise-sized global businesses who require Salesforce as part of our contract to report to them our spend and our behaviors in this space. So these companies have their own programs where it's so critical to them, and they're seeking ways to partner and spend in this way because it aligns with their values, that they put it in their contracts with us. How many of you knew that, out of curiosity? Yes, this is a big learning journey. See how you're getting to create, right? So keep all these things in mind. Start thinking about, what would you call this? How would you enable this? If you were in it, what would you want this to be? Next piece is, there's actually something called, it's the $1 billion roundtable. I know there should be a pounds equivalent. It was actually a concept started in the United States, but it's businesses who commit to spend $1 billion or more with diverse-owned businesses each year, and then get that spend verified. So that, for example, I don't say that I'm something that I'm not, right, when I have this business. One of the things that's interesting for us from a Salesforce perspective is Microsoft is one of those companies. And as a fun exercise later, or now if you feel like it, or if you're watching at home, pick up your mobile device and just look up in your favorite search engine, Microsoft supplier diversity. You'll see beautiful curated quotes and programs and cultivation. There's a program called Accelerate with Google, similarly, and then look up Salesforce. And you'll get kind of an old PDF, which we're working to evolve, by the way. It doesn't have the feel that you would expect from Salesforce to continue into. If you wanted to even find more from the conversation today, you would struggle. It's very un-Salesforce-like, right? And then the last piece is within the own Trailblazer community. Now, I know this is a small amount of members and votes relative to lots of other things tied to product features. But what happens is people are saying, can I self-identify? Or if I'm looking for another partner to work with when I'm developing on the App Exchange and I want a designation, can I even look these people up? And the answer today is no. You can't search on the App Exchange or on our website to find any of those business designations. So what we see is this a little bit of a gap and an opportunity between our values, some customer demand, and then also a leadership opportunity in the marketplace. Does that resonate? Are we all tracking on the story so far? I see the wheel starting to turn, which is great because this is going to be engaging you and helping us solve for this. So we started putting together a concept of what could happen if we created this equality ecosystem. What would we call it? So for the moment, just think of the working name as being Trailbuilders. It doesn't necessarily have to be that, but think of what would we name this group? Because at Salesforce, we love to name things, right? And it's the basis of creating community, because then you have people with whom you can identify. So we're thinking about what would we call it. Someone asked me, by the way, does this mean that these are all people who build trails in Trailhead? And I'm like, that's why you test a name. I never would have thought of that. So what would we call it, and how would we sort of do this naming of what we're bringing together? And what would we put in this program? Is it, and if you're a small business in the room or supply businesses like these, is it mentoring? Is it special Dreamforce access? Is it different payment terms? Whatever it might be. And so to ground us a little bit in the thought process of what is it like to start a business in the ecosystem, try to raise your profile and connect with other people like you, whether that's to get business mentoring or literally to find business, I want to invite Amnon to the stage to share a little bit of what I would call a day in the life of a newly emerging business in the Salesforce ecosystem. So we're going to give you the microphone and let us have you tell us a little bit about your experience so far.
Right.
And a little bit of your Salesforce wish list, if we were to put the power of Salesforce into making this an easier and better experience for you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So I'll tell you a bit about myself. My name is Amnon. I'm not sure if this counts. I am actually an immigrant in the UK, religiously from a minority group, but when it comes to my work, I don't focus on that. What I focus on is trying to create something that doesn't exist before, as are all of us in this room, I would imagine. And when it comes to building an actual product, I've started mine about a year ago when I had an idea and I've decided, you know what, this is something people can use, let's make it. The beauty of Salesforce is that you can build a product without any sort of restrictions, barriers. You create yourself a development org, you start building, and if and when you're ready, at your own pace and time, you can decide to take that journey into the App Exchange, into the partner program, and see what comes out. There are some costs at certain phases that you need to get through, security reviews, but compared to other platforms, those costs are minor. So really anyone can give it a try. Anyone can decide they want to build something and give it a shot to see if they succeed. As far as my time goes, I actually still have a day job. I kept my day job. I work as a solutions architect for a consultancy, which means that I spend all day with people. They can be business owners, they can be BAs and admins, or they can be end users sometimes, and I listen to the things that bother them, and I try to come up with solutions. Those things that don't have existing solutions go into my application. I also, some of you might know me, I do spend a lot of time on the community, and I don't know, there might be some people whom I've spoken with before in this room, and one of the biggest focuses that I have, not just as being a business owner, but being part of this Salesforce community, is the ability to help one another. So we have this beautiful community forum, which is the success community, and people ask questions and other people answer them. Anyone can do it. If you have the ability to help someone, you log onto a website and you do it. Again, no restrictions. And sometimes those questions can lead to, sometimes they can lead to business, sometimes they can lead to friendship. In this room today, in this event today, I was able to meet 2 people with whom I'm planning business ventures together with my business. The fact that we have this sort of event where I can just come and meet a person and say, actually, we have something in common, let's work together, it's absolutely fantastic. At no point in my career, before I joined the Salesforce ecosystem, was I able to do this before. In fact, in my previous life before Salesforce, if I needed to get anything from anyone, any sort of help, I'd have to do a little ritual dance, pay tribute to the gods, and maybe I'd get a 2-year-old PDF. But obviously that's not the case today, because we have this type of community around us that helps everyone. And just like back when I was getting started with Salesforce, I was getting help from people to get myself up to where I am today. Now that I have the opportunity to give back, whether as a person or as a business, just do it, as the saying goes. In terms of the App Exchange program, so I'm fairly new. I'm going through the due diligence process right now, trying to get my app on the App Exchange. But what the program does give you is yet another community of businesses. And it gives me the tools to look at other businesses, see what they're doing, try and figure out whether or not we have that compatibility and initiate discussion. Of course, it can be better. There can be improvements, and there can be lots of things that can still be done. But it's a tool, and it's there. I also have access to support from Salesforce. So when things happen that I can't solve, open a case. And you have that help from Salesforce, even though I haven't paid them a penny yet. They're there for me when I need them. Another thing that that is very important is offline help. So we don't just help on the community aspect. We have all these community groups. We have people who have questions. We have people who just need to hear about interesting topics. So we have some people here who organize these groups and know exactly their worth to the rest of the community. Participate in those as well, whether it's just to be there and listen, or if you have anything to contribute, do that. These are things that we have here and we should promote and support rather than take for granted. So I guess if anyone in this room has anything that they can contribute to anyone else, whether it's tutoring, community help, presentations about your business and the things that challenge you during the day, again, just do it. Nothing is stopping you.
Awesome. So a couple of things before you exit. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Do a quick audience poll. How many of you currently own your own business? Okay, several of you. Fantastic. How many of you have you ever owned a business in the past but not currently? Anybody else in the mix? And then how many of you work for businesses that have less than 50 employees or fewer than 50 employees? Okay, fewer than 100? Okay. So yes, obviously, I guess I should have said 51 to 100. Sorry. I'll wave at everyone who's on the phone, maybe raising a hand also. So when we think about what it's like to function in the Salesforce ecosystem in a business with fewer than 100 people or fewer than 50 people, what are some of the challenges beyond what Amnon highlighted that you're facing about connecting, getting elevated, getting access to Salesforce? Anything come to mind beyond what has been highlighted a little bit?
I think just as being
Microphone, so that the folks at home feel like they're participating. You want to smile at them, Holly?
So I think just as being a one-person business, I think it's connectivity to Salesforce or to, I think mainly to Salesforce actually. I think it's easier within the community to connect to other people.
Yes, the community makes it easier. And then as a small business owner, would it be helpful to be able to connect with other small business owners or get mentorship from Salesforce? Okay. Any other challenges? Phil, everyone, meet Phil Walton.
Hi everyone. Actually, very, very similar point really. So I think it's that connection, relatively easy to the business owners, relatively, but actually, to Salesforce and some of the account execs. I remember when I was one person as a one-man show, and really to try and get, we've probably highlighted. I was probably quite well highlighted in the community before of being an MVP, being a user group leader, being a blogger, all these sort of things. So people would know me, but then not the company. Mm-hmm. And that meant that as much as I knew lots of other people doing similar things, I knew zero account execs. And then of however many hundred or thousands they would change roles and areas every year. And there's no way that I could keep on top of that of, do I do it on LinkedIn? Do I chase them around? So actually that was and probably still is a challenge, but less so now that we're going into double figures. But that's a big challenge.
Right, so how do you translate knowing you into getting business, right? Those aren't necessarily one and the same if people don't know your company or your company's capabilities. Any others? Well, so as we've been having this conversation inside of Salesforce, some of our key partners in this process are the Office of Equality, which many of you know, because of course, they've got a critical path both to our Ohana groups, who can help us identify some of these businesses and cultivate for some very specific need sets around the world. We're also working very closely with the small business team. So some of you may know our Essentials product line. Is that familiar in the small business space? But in our Essentials team, it's focused on small businesses and business owners. And so we're testing out at a series of events, at SMB events in our lead up to Dreamforce, what it could look like to bring together some small business owners, some members of the community, and then test out some of these ideas. So what we're going to ask you to do now is not just listen to the challenges and opportunities, the Just Do It charge from Amnon, but what we're going to do is spend a little bit of time, and you get to help us create what some of this could look like. And our goal that we're moving toward, I mentioned, is being able to launch this at Dreamforce, at least with a pilot group of business owners and interested partners. So we're going to kind of work through a couple of these things. So we'll test our creative powers, and because we're also broadcasting and we don't want them to fall asleep or drop too much milk into their tea, what we're going to do is we'll just kind of go through them one at a time, and we'll take them as kind of, I'll call them lightning rounds, but very quick speed brainstorming with a couple of people next to you, just in 1-minute increments, to pitch out some ideas, and then we'll talk about what's missing. So are you ready? Are you up for the challenge? Did you have enough pie and sugar to have something meaningful to contribute? And hopefully at home, you've shopped at the Tesco and have lots of supplies ready to keep you fueled. All right, so first challenge is, we said Trailbuilders, but not everyone that's in that ecosystem would be writing trails. So what would you call this, even roughly? So take 1 minute and brainstorm with anybody sitting approximately around you, and about three's there. Take a minute, and if you're at home, you're welcome to tweet me your ideas at Karen Mangia, Mangia, and go. I feel like we need like that Flight of the Bumblebee music or something, where we're going to do a little collaboration. Oh, good. Well, and by the way, if naming it's not your forte, what would be the important things that you would want us to talk about tied to it? So if it's not the name, what would you want us to make sure we highlight? So if we were going to pretend they're going to market you, they're going to nominate you for this program, what would you want to make sure everybody knew about your business and you? And Amnon as well. I love it. And again, at home, at Karen Mangia, and I will even pull up my Twitter so I can check your at-home responses. Hello. We're brainstorming ideas of what would we call this program. Promised I would bring it up. Oh, and in fact, I should tweet. Is Mallory going to be the ringer in the group? We should put it on your video. People can name it. Let's see. All right, so 10 seconds. So we'll get your brilliance, then I will bring the mic so someone from your group can share any relevant ideas, names, and brainstorms. And for anyone who wants to tweet in, I'm looking at you right now. All right, we'll do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Who wants to share an idea? Does the group in the... Okay, we're going to start here. All right, go.
We have a name idea, Trailbuilders.
Trailbuilders. All right, I love it. Trailbuilders. Okay, back.
So I couldn't come up with the word, but
Okay.
one angle I was thinking of approaching it from was, rather than it being about someone pluckily blazing a trail or connecting with someone or whatever,
Right.
it's about breaking down barriers. So it's trying to,
Yes.
kind of knocking things down, but not in a negative way. And that's where I couldn't actually come up with the word that was required.
I like it. We have sort of a tagline, right? If we're breaking down barriers, we have a concept, right? All brainstorming needs some kind of constraints that we would filter through. Back group. Anything specific you would want to highlight or make sure people knew about the program that was important?
We had
That's good. That's okay, because there's other questions. Everybody gets to contribute. This group.
We came up with a name.
Okay.
Trails for All.
Oh, Trails for All. Trails for All. Oh, the number 4. Okay, Trails for All. I can turn these into Twitter polls then, and people can vote. Trails for All. That is fantastic. Okay, awesome. Thank you. So next up then, we're going to prioritize the program, right? So when you think about, what Salesforce does with the community, right? There's all of these things happening, right? Salesforce spends money, and all of you do as well. Thank you. We elevate and promote what's happening here, and the whole purpose of the community is to connect people with each other. So if you were to think about the programs that would go with building this ecosystem, how would you set our priorities? And it could be something other than that. But what would matter most to you, or what do you think would help build the most momentum? So, and you can put them in that order, 1, 2, 3, reorder them, or say, you know what? You've totally missed it. You need to do something else. So that's your next 1-minute brainstorm. And again, if you're watching, you can tweet. Tweet your order, tweet your preference, and then we'll do the quick readout again. So your 1 minute starts now. All right, so at home, if we're going to elevate you, if we're going to invest in the small business and a quality ecosystem, what order would you put those in? Spend, elevate, connect? You can tweet at Karen Mangia. So how would you prioritize those items? Or add a new one? Again, tweet at home with your ideas. All right, and we'll do the 10-second warning, and this time someone new from your group will read out. I will also take a couple notes on your feedback. So we'll do the countdown of the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, I know. It does go quick, doesn't it? I just, I think about the people at home, right, who are dialed in. All right, so group in the back. We'll start with you. If you want to share, how would you handle that?
Yeah, so I think when I think about what Salesforce does really well at the moment is creating these communities, because just for example, the funding to user groups that I'm a member of Phil's North of England user group, and the pizza and the beers, that I think is partly funded by Salesforce. A small investment actually helps make it happen, and it's good that those groups, Phil's groups is one of the most successful. I think is it's not something that Salesforce actually manage. It's not led by Salesforce, but it's facilitated by Salesforce, and everyone in the Northwest gets a lot of benefit out of that. So it's elevating the platform and the opportunities, connecting people. So something that is, and I think Salesforce do this very deliberately, it's about trying to stimulate activity out in the community and bringing people together without being there running everything themselves. And it's almost like a, I can't think of the word, where the opposite of centralized. Decentralized, yes. Decentralized system to get people talking and interacting.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing you say, and I think it's fantastic, which is take the model that already works for how we build community and create groups, help provide some support and maybe an approximate template or some resources but then elevate people who fit the profile to actually lead it and make it your own, because it brings the community aspect together. It brings together some of what you already know us for, which is provide a foundation, I guess you could say a platform, and then let all of you go build on it and make it unique to your geography, your interests, your care-abouts.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know we've got the women in tech group already in the community, right, and some others. So I think about, ooh, what could that be? And maybe we'll add in a spoiler alert question. Which group wants to go next? All right.
After I stop blushing, thank you, Adrian.
Yes.
So actually, you actually made me think of something there of an event that we did at user groups. So we what we were thinking was about mentoring, and actually. This needs a bit of marketing help, by the way. But we thought of mentoring. What's the opposite of mentoring? We thought of it.
No, I'm kidding.
No, we thought about the mentoring idea, but
Yes.
mentoring from Salesforce to potentially the partners
Yes.
who would then mentor the mentees.
Yes.
Might need a bit of help there with that one, of unpicking that one. But, rather than just saying, yeah, it's a mentor and mentee relationship, it
Right.
might be something that you pass on. So do it from Salesforce down to whoever it be, partners, user group leaders, existing Trailblazers, whatever it be. But, yeah, you reminded me something of one of the events that we did. Go on. Pay it forward.
There
Okay.
you go.
Well, as it was on my microphone, then that'll go to the world as my idea.
The Pay It Forward program. It's forever recorded for history. We'll always know the source of the idea for the beta.
But yeah, the thing that you just reminded me before about was that we did for want of a better phrase, a speed dating.
Yes.
So really it was just at one of the events that we really, everybody in the room, it is often really difficult to say, hey, there's only for people at home, about 300 of us in the room. But it's really difficult to just go up to everybody and speak to them. Whereas actually, if you're almost forced to, everybody's happy to share their story and everybody's happy to speak to each other. But it's sometimes a little bit difficult or awkward. So yeah, if we could somehow match that into the mentor, mentee, mentor, the mentorer.
That's such a great thought, and it reminds me of a conversation I had with Ashley Allen. Do any of you know Ashley? So she has a business called IT Equality, based in the U.S., and she started out her implementation expertise for her company in CPQ and has expanded to Sales Cloud and some other areas. And her dream is to be able to, take something like a strip mall or a area of stores that's no longer being used, and in addition to having her Salesforce kind of implementation business, be able to set up incubators for people who want to start their own businesses and provide them some support. So I think about that model of when you invest in an Ashley, you then, by extension, right, invest in lots of other people, to your point. And one of her very specific asks that we chatted with her and several other diverse business owners in this space was, she said a little bit of what you were just mentioning, which is, I would love to have the expertise of someone at Salesforce to help me with some of the business aspects that I might not know as well as I know tech. So for example, it's some of the legal things that you get into, right? If you're a small business, how could she add on more specializations, maybe with a little bit less expense? Just some of that, take your business skills or your specific knowledge of Salesforce and help with that part as kind of another example. All right, which group over here wants to go next? All right. Everyone's pointing to you as the spokesperson. Leanne looks ecstatic about the opportunity to do the read-off for her group. You don't have to if you don't want to. It's okay. You can pass. All right. Does anyone else from your group want to add a thought? Okay, Amnon.
So keeping the speed dating theme,
Yes.
we think that a community should have the potential to match between companies as partners. So instead of someone going to look for someone within a whole sea of possibilities,
Okay.
have some sort of dating profile and a matching algorithm to say you two might be a good fit.
So it's like the Match.com or the eHarmony.com of business owners or people that are in that community. So do some things to connect you with people that you might not inherently find on your own. That in shocking news, maybe use some of our own technology. Great idea. Back group. Other thoughts on? Mallory's going to be our spokesperson back
Yes,
here. Mallory,
hello.
everyone.
So I think what resonated with us the most, similar to group one, was connection. especially as small business owners, working individually or in small groups, connection is really important.
Okay.
And we've seen we have a framework currently with community groups that works really well. So creating that similar space for small businesses to be able to meet.
I'm curious if it lived, not because it has to be a formal question, but like, let's just picture that we launched this within the Trailblazer community and we said, hey, you know, there's a great women in tech group and now we're gonna add a group for this. That would resonate. Would you call that something? Or how would you nominate people? How would we find people across this whole wonderful millions of people in the Trailblazer community that if you received the invitation, you would say, oh, I wanna be a part of that? What would engage you if you're one of the people, because many of you are in this profile, what would entice you to want to participate? It would have to be relatable, okay. And could you tell me what relatable means? Just targeted to your preferences?
Yeah.
Okay. Right, okay, and you'd want to be clear that there's other people like you in it that you're going to connect with, okay?
So I can give you an actual example from London. About a year and a half ago, there were some ISVs that used to come along to the developer groups, and 2 or 3 of them who were quite active in the community then decided to start the London ISV group. Because they've been to the developer groups and things like that, they had a bit of a raised profile. So having those sort of few people together starting it, it then became not just a random, hey, we're starting this group and people like you. It'll be, here are these people you know, and you know they've done talks, you've seen at the admin group, at the developer group. So having a bit of a history to them, I think, really helps as well. There's a pull almost.
So curate some people to lead who are recognized or already known to you, right, and of interest. Okay, fantastic. It wouldn't be Salesforce without swag, would it? I mean, it could be winning idea. All right, swag for the win. I did see that note. Didn't they say they were testing the fire alarm at this time? I love that so much. Okay, well, the fire drill we're gonna do is, how would you swag it? I mean, we do stickers, we do jackets, we do badges, but is there something useful in your day-to-day community life or working in a business of fewer than 50 people or 100 people that you would say, yes, Salesforce, swag this as part of this new ecosystem? Take your minute while we dizzyingly have a fire drill. I'm sure it'll make it easier to think of great ideas under this sort of Family Feud type pressure. All right. You can join one of the groups. So we're talking about if you could create new swag for a small business program, what would it be? You get to swag it. What would it be? What would your swag be? And you can tweet again. So at home, if you could build the swag for this new ecosystem, what would it be? This is your chance to get creative and spend our money. And I'm tweeting all of you back. So how would you swag? How would you swag the ecosystem? Thirty-second warning. All right, 10 seconds, and you know how quickly I start counting when we get to 5. Capture your brilliance. I'm taking notes, by the way. I'm not like texting during our prezo, but I want to capture all the great things you're saying. Yeah, exactly. Dear Mom, no pie for dinner tonight. Awesome. All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Who wants to tell us about your swag? How would you swag it? All right. See, I told you. It was, you're off and moving.
So Dan, who sat next to me here,
Yes.
his business, by the way, is Multicurrency Updater. So I just want to give him a plug there.
Multicurrency Updater, so noted for our friends on the phone. All right.
And he was talking about something that would have a practical use in a small business, such as something that might create what was it, the QR code, say, for identifying your business if you were handing out cards or something.
QR code creator for identifying your business when you're handing out cards. Awesome. I'm making a note of that. Thank you. Others? Who else wants to tell us about your swag? Swag.
We were just saying.
Holly, thank
we
you.
were just saying useful tech. So just the little phone chargers or the adapters that the USB adapters chargers that have the multiple different adapters on, or things like collapsible, reusable coffee cups. I have bought 2 coffee cups so I don't use the disposable cups, but they're both big and heavy, and so something that you can carry around that. So really just useful.
Collapsible, reusable coffee cups, noted. Anybody else? Any other swag ideas? Do you want to? All right.
So we controversially went against swag and thought, if we were doing something like mentor the mentee or something, what would, as a partner and as a business, what would we get out of it rather than, or what would benefit us rather than the physical swag, actually just recognition like from Salesforce, like what was the phrase we used? Promotion from the mothership.
Yes, promotion.
Something that may well be, hey, these
so
guys have
maybe
done...
like some kind of, I'll just call them like Inkind Marketing dollars or promotion dollars.
Well, yeah, or even just that nice positive message from, the Salesforce account, or as I said, from Mark or whoever, to say, hey, look, these guys have done something and they've helped these 3 people, and maybe those 2 of those people have now got a job within the Salesforce world.
Exactly, and then turn it into a story, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic. The other thing that kind of struck me is, how many of you do not have an actual physical office? Like do you have anything that's you're only home office oriented? Would having any kind of office space ever be something valuable? No? You don't use it at all?
We'd happily take over the Salesforce Tower.
There you go. It has great snacks. I recommend it. Yeah,
exactly.
Exactly.
All of them, yeah.
And then the last one we'll just do as a group discussion. You don't have to break down into your group. Oh, yes. No, I'll take
one. That just gave me an idea. I mean, the co-working space, like the opportunity to work in a local co-working space, or because that's also good. They're also good for networking, but it just gets you out. I work in a home office. It's good to get out every so often, have a different environment. It just stimulates thinking.
Local co-work. Yes. Noted. Little socialization.
So we had some that crossed over other people's, so I won't do that. But the one thing we did think would be a good idea would be something that kind of identified you as being part of that movement around the world. So maybe badges, maybe hoodies, something. So if you're at another event, if you're at Dreamforce, as you're wandering around the expo, you might see someone with the same badge and, hey, where are you from? It's a good icebreaker, and it means it puts you in contact with people, maybe not from your location.
Fantastic. Thank you. And yes, awesome. Keep it coming. Keep it coming. I love it.
Yeah, so there's certain events that Salesforce run, such as the World Tour and Dreamforce. And if you're not based in San Francisco or America, or you're not in London, those events might not be very accessible to you. So that's sort of a barrier to entry. So maybe chartering planes and flying people to Dreamforce.
We are going to need an equality ecosystem for all private charters. So noted. But your point is a good one, which is the program needs to come to where you are. It can't always rely on you coming to where, quote unquote, we are, let's say. And then the last one, last question that you don't have to do as a group, but I'll just take feedback here, either from Twitter, you can tweet me at Karen Mangia, or in the room, what are we missing? Like, as we're talking about all of this, some of you are like, this is so obvious. I don't know how you've missed. Thank you. I appreciate this.
So thinking back to when we were a small company, the biggest issue, and we had a couple of people who ran the company who'd built sales teams before, so they knew what was involved in selling. They knew how to deal with larger organizations. But if we hadn't had them, I don't think we'd have had a clue how to get in touch, how to connect with any Salesforce account execs. And customers typically look to account execs when they want something. They say, could you recommend us a few partners? We'll talk to them. So I think helping people contact, what sort of things do AEs want from them? What sort of things are they looking for? Because if you don't do that, I think you can have a great idea, but you're going to struggle to sell it because it's difficult for you to get in front of the customers, whereas the AEs are there the whole time. So I think making that connection is really important.
Make the connection with the AEs, yes. And which becomes even easier if this is a program, right? Because then it's easier to message, right? That there's a program, there are people, there are opportunities. Yes, tell me more about what we're missing.
I'm thinking like the dashboard capabilities that you think about that are aimed at the business lines, enterprise businesses. In terms of those, the portal screen where you log in and you see your dashboards about what you're looking for, that maybe could be a portal specifically for Salesforce capabilities specifically for this purpose, with marketing sections and sales sections and legal considerations. And it's almost like when you log in to Salesforce, it's the first thing you do in your day, and it's the center of your business, and you use it to sort of drive all the different avenues of it.
Right, so kind of the hub.
I'm going to patent that.
Yes, you should. You should. Others? Anything else? Well, thank you. I guess I should have put the thank you slide at the end again so that we can, end where we started, the literal one. But thank you for your time. Thank you for your thoughts. Thank you for being candid. And so that means we'll continue to share information back with you as we develop this. And one of the things I've definitely noted is the importance of making sure it's something that comes to you, and we don't just, go to the United States and launch something and be like, good news, we did it. And you're like, well, what do we do about that here, right? That doesn't really help us. So thank you for your time. If there's any feedback we missed, please feel free to chat with me afterwards, and I'll be delighted to stay in touch with all of you. And you'll get 5 minutes back unless there's any other questions or anything we've missed. Yes. Oh, hang on. I have a microphone for you because people at home want to hear you.
So just where is this on its journey at the moment?
Yeah, so where it is on its journey at the moment is we have a person whose full-time role in the organization at Salesforce is to do all the reporting and the customer relationships and kind of the partnership with the Equality Office. And then we are doing some pilots with the SMB team. And then we've actually been doing some work with Erica, Cole, and Mallory and the Trailblazer community team to say, could we do some things like content in a box? So picture that we take this concept, we turn it into a program. How could we then use the content in a box program through the community to start to share the story? So what I would say at this point is we've got allies, we've got ideas. Now we're kind of testing the ideas to refine them. And then the other piece is I'm going to start having some conversations with some of our industry analysts, like a Gartner and a Forrester, to say under NDA, if we were to do something like this, what would you advise us to do, right? Where's their differentiation opportunity? How do you or do you not see this as an extension of who we are and what we do? So at this point, it's in a number of priorities across the company, and we're hopeful to be able to do some public announcements this year. It might be at Dreamforce about kind of how our commitment in this space is going to look. And then, interestingly enough, one of our very large partners, it's a customer and a partner, has offered to help with some of our Dreamforce-like exclusive access for people who will be in the pilot program to make sure that people who are starting out with us sort of feel special and feel that experience. So that's sort of where we are at the moment.
And how do you keep a track of progress?
How do we keep track of progress? That is a great question. And so one of the things that happens, I think, when you're starting something and you have lots of ideas is it's tempting to pursue every idea because you just want to see what works, right? Like, if we try this, will it work? Will this go somewhere? And so what we've really kind of focused down to now is a couple of very specific plays, and we're using our Salesforce V2 MOM process. So some of you are very familiar with it. If you're not, think of it as essentially how we set our 3 to 5 year vision, the values that would support it, the priorities, and then how we measure success. So right now, it's about kind of reach of people of testing the message. It's about connecting with those 31 customers to do one-on-one interviews of, why did you put this in the contract? If we tried to make this more strategic, what would that look like? Doing some focus groups and feedback. It is then kind of putting the feedback together into the prioritized elements of what the program would look like, and then it will be kind of launching our pilot group. And then we have some aspirations beyond that, but those are the key milestones for the moment. And we've all just, well, at least at my level, we've all just published those priorities for the year. So those are the ones that we feel like we can reasonably do. It's tempting, like all of us, to want to do everything. Be like, and then there will be like Mark on stage at Dreamforce with an unveiling and a film, and people will cry, and it will be amazing. And then it's like, that's a lot in a short amount of time. And I'll give you some ideas. Other ideas that have come up are things like, could we have something like a venture capital style competition, right? Where we did something like, we're going to have this pool of money, and if you're a business that qualifies in some of these definitions, you could compete with your idea, and Salesforce would do some money. We've talked with Salesforce Ventures, which is where we do our acquisitions and business investments. Could we take some of the programs that they do to cultivate people and extend them into this space? Some other ideas that people have put forward are things like, the community idea is a great one, so we've got to explore that more. But some other ones are things like, could we have trailhead trails about this? Could we, like within Salesforce, take the concept of what we do with giving back and have champions of like diverse spend? So let's say you put a commitment on how you spent your budget and you got creative with elevating some of these businesses. Could we feature you? So there's lots of other things that are sort of incentives and upside. I think realistically right now it's refine the ideas, test them, get a pilot group launched, and ideally have a small number of people, at least at Dreamforce, that we're truly kind of cultivating. But I love the community idea just because there's so much already in place from what works and how people come together and how stories get told and what all of you care about. So that's another area, and I'll be following up with Erica after this to talk more about it, or maybe just Mallory, since she's here. But yes, keep asking about it because it's important. And I think the other thing too is, you are all a very powerful and influential voice at Salesforce. People all over, every week get updates and read about your activity and the cases you're resolving and the events that you're holding. So your opinion matters a lot. So when you ask, Salesforce is like, oh, there's some interest in this, right? This influential group of people who does so much is pushing us to keep going on this. Don't underestimate the power of your voice also in moving it forward or moving it forward at a faster rate. So thank you. Awesome. It looks like there's refreshments for you. Thank you, everybody on the video.